presence. Stan Van Gundy, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And like Jacoby, JRLA supporter. Very grateful as well.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to step up. I'm going to sponsor 2 students.
Well, I'm not running a marathon.
I'm not running a marathon either. Another day, another Jimmy Butler update. I feel like Jimmy Butler has just like held us hostage for the last 2 weeks. Every single day there's something new. The latest is this tweet from Woj. Woj dropped this. Sources, barring a trade, Tom Thibodeau is still determined to get Butler back with the team for the start of the season. Butler hasn't made a final decision on when he'll join the team in practice, but he doesn't plan to miss regular season games if his wrist is healthy. There's a lot of layers to this. There's also reports that Miami has kind of put a best offer on the table. You know, Bam Adebayo and Richardson's involved. Coach, would you be hesitant to trade assets and players for Jimmy Butler given his history of reported locker room tension?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, he plays the game the right way, right? I mean, plays at both ends of the floor. He's a very good player, very competitive. And I think, now again, you never know what you're reading is accurate, but most of the problems he's had with teammates has been he's been wanted more out of guys. He's wanted guys to compete harder. He's wanted guys to be more into winning. And so if that's the tension, I think most coaches would like to have him.
Jalen Wood, Bam, Richardson, and a pick do it for you if you're Minnesota.
Oh, hello. Oh, voicemail.
Yeah.
Well, y'all can't even get me on the phone with that offer. Because what ends up happening is, first off, you're not going to get real value for Jimmy Butler because, as Coach mentioned, he's a terrific player. But when the owner comes out and undercuts management by saying they want it to happen at a certain timeline, people are going to give you lowball offer deals, hoping that he supersedes their decision-making and decides to settle for an offer. So for Coach Tom Thibodeau, and you saw it, Coach, in Woj's tweets, what kind of unique position between Jimmy saying he wanted to be out, the owner saying that he will be out, and Coach Tom Thibodeau is actually trying to win basketball games this year?
Yeah, that's tough. When the owner runs the team, it's his team, so you're going to have to do what he wants. But I'm with Tom all the way. I mean, get him back in, let's get him playing, and then we'll have some leverage again to get the best deal that we can. And it's funny reading, Jimmy doesn't plan to miss regular season games.
Unless
But Jimmy does not plan to miss paychecks.
Right.
That's what he does.
Talking about this wrist. I mean, he had surgery on his wrist, but like, this wrist thing wasn't really talked about 2 weeks ago, and now it's getting closer and closer. Oh, my wrist hurts a little bit. Could we see a situation where he reports and then he says that his wrist hurts, even though it might not be a problem?
Yeah, look, Jimmy Butler's a competitor, and if he knows he has to stay in Minnesota, I think you're going to get his best every single night. I think Tom Thibodeau knows that, and that's why he's not as eager to trade him as his owner may be.
Well, Karl-Anthony Towns signed an extension, and now it's like if Jimmy comes back, Karl-Anthony Towns signed the extension basically with a promise that Jimmy Butler was not going to be on the team. And there's some interesting information about Karl-Anthony Towns. They had the annual GM survey where they ask all the GMs a bunch of different questions. Last year, Karl-Anthony Towns was the #1 vote getter on like who you would build a franchise around. This year, not on the list. Why do you think that would be?
Well, I think as the longer you go on, it becomes more based on performance and less based on potential.
Yes.
And to me, I mean, Jimmy Butler, I think, was the guy that was regarded as having made the difference last year and gotten them into the playoffs, right? And I think unless Karl-Anthony Towns makes more of a commitment at the defensive end of the floor, he's just going to be a guy that's putting up big numbers and not helping your team get over the top.
I think a lot of it was that Capella matchup, too. That was kind of eyebrow-raising. It was like, ooh, Capella just kind of shut down Karl-Anthony Towns, not in one game, but in a series,
And when you Capella, you walk in with that footage when you're trying to get a new contract. Say, the GMs picked this guy to build around. I just dominated him. You guys give me $90 million to play.
Yeah, now, Clint Capella, I mean, as you know, he's really almost the prototype NBA center now if you're playing with guards. I mean, there's still guys like Jokic around, who can get it done offensively, Karl-Anthony Towns. But I think the way the league is headed, Clint Capella is almost the prototype guy.
Well, that's exactly what we wanted to talk to you about. Great media work right there, transitioning to the next topic. You coached Andre Drummond, and he put up 31 points, and he's more of a traditional center. And then there's sort of like the Karl-Anthony Towns, Kristaps Porzingis, small ball, stretch five thing happening. And Jalen and I still believe that there's not just a place for a dominant traditional center, but they're going to be more prevalent. How do you feel about the center's role in today's game?
Well, right now it's changed, but I think everything's cyclical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, because of the prevalence of the pick and roll game and everything, what you're seeing is a lot more switching on the perimeter.
Yep.
And so you've got to find a way to make defenses put two guys on the ball. Whether I'm going to run a pick and roll, I'm going to break somebody down off the dribble and draw help. And then the other way that people traditionally got people to put two on the ball was to throw the ball into the low post.
Sure.
And so what we've seen is we've seen the disappearance of those skills. But as guys come back to those skills, you know, it's going to be a great way to play. And you're going to, you know, the defense catches up to the offense, and then the offense has to catch up to the defense, and things keep coming around. So there's always going to be a role for the center.
You look at Boogie, you know, you look at Embiid, you look at Jokic, like, you can just dump the ball into these guys and get buckets, and they're hard to stop. Like, can you see more of that happening, Jalen?
Absolutely, and I put them in the categories, and Coach kind of alluded to it. For me, the skill big to play with great guards that get them shots, pick and roll, lobs over the top, Capella, Steven Adams, DeAndre Jordan, Rudy Gobert. And then there's the skill guys that you just talked about, Anthony Davis, Boogie, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond falls into that category of guys that can actually dribble past and make a shot. So it depends on a lot of times who your teammates are as well, but the big man position has made a resurgence.
Well, there's no question, and I think what has happened actually is you've just had 6'10" and 6'11" guys, 7-footers, who now can do more things.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be a big league, and I think the misnomer is, oh, teams are playing small. They're not playing small. They're just playing skilled. I mean, Kevin Durant's not small. Anthony Davis isn't small. Nikola Jokic isn't small. Yeah. I mean, what you're playing, you've just got more big guys with a variety of skills.
It's also like it's also who you have on your roster. If you have Joel Embiid or you have Boogie Cousins, like, you're going to run plays for them and dump the ball into them. But if you don't, then you might go small. Like, you look at someone like the Lakers, like, they'll start JaVale McGee, but they probably won't finish with JaVale McGee. I mean, why do they always have a center on the roster like your Aaron Baines or your JaVale McGee, and then at the end of the game you go small?
Well, a lot of times you're matching up with what other people are doing and things like that. Sometimes it could be free throw issues. I mean, you don't know exactly the situation. I think you certainly have to have roster versatility now to be able to play in a lot of different ways. I think you've seen that with every team.
Sure. It's time for the Don't Get Fired topic of the day, Coach.
Already?
I just got fired.
So, the Charlotte Hornets, they have an information sheet just to, like, get to know the players and get to know the players' family. And Frank Kaminsky posted what the Hornets information sheet looked like. Let's take a look at that. And there is a line for wife, where you put the wife's birthday, and then there's a line for girlfriend. Jalen.
Oh, you gonna come to me first?
Oh, yeah. You were a player, baby. Yep. You played in the game, on the court and off the court. Do you think this was intentional or is this a mistake?
I think it was initially intentional, then they sent it out and realized it was a mistake.
Oh, okay, so it was intentional, then they realized it was a mistake.
Because the owner of their team happens to be not only a former player, but one of the greatest to ever do it, so he understands the locker room dynamics as well as anyone. And if you're going to send out a questionnaire, you clearly can't have the wife and then have the girlfriend listed and have one of the players physically turn that into the basketball game.
Yeah, Coach, do you think there was a player that filled out both lines?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There was at least one. There was at least one who didn't figure out that this wasn't a good idea.
You don't want the paper trail.
Or one to be like, well, I'm only engaged, so I put my fiance and then my girlfriend.
Yeah. It's also important information, though. You don't want to sit them next to each other, put them in different parts. And the birthdays thing is, I don't think it's a mistake because they had different lines for the birthdays. You could have easily just said significant other and had it be one line. I think it was intentional.
Well, I think the mistake might have been with somebody on the team that they only had one line for a girlfriend. That might have been a mistake.
This is not fair. This is absolutely wrong. This is not fair to my family. I need more lines for girlfriend.
Absolutely.
I feel disrespected.
No question. How about this?
Disrespected.
Coach, do you now fine Frank Kaminsky for putting this out for public consumption? That's supposed to stay in the locker room.
It is supposed to stay in the locker room. But you know what? I've had situations. We've had a guy who we thought was distracted. I'm not going to say who or where I was coaching. Like at timeouts, like looking around the arena to make sure people aren't getting together.
And I hate to tell you this because it's probably 25% of the people who coach.
I love coaches like we had guys. Pretty much everyone is not in the game. To be honest with you. Thank you so much for coming by, Coach. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Anytime you're around, welcome to come
Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right, thanks.
Don't change the channel. We'll be back with more Jalen Jacoby right after this.
You got to give the people.